Before we get into the TK debate, though, I do want to talk about the second half of the mock draft that I did, because obviously draft coverage is going to be a big part of our show for the next month. We got a month to go to the draft. I am currently working on some individual prospect profile videos that will probably start coming out next week. So if you want to learn a little bit more about each prospect, I'm going to be doing a bunch of them, and they're going to come out over the course of June. But before I got into that, I wanted to do a full mock draft. So yesterday was the free-for-all in terms of reading. Lottery version of the draft, where I went
16 picks.
Went through the top 16. Today, I obviously included those 16 picks, but then went into 17 through 32. And that mock draft is only for diehards. But wanted to talk a little bit about it. Number one, because the Flyers do have a pick in the back half of the first round. Number two, because guess what? Cole Eiserman was taken. It's not like he slipped out of the first round, guys. It's not.
Flyers aren't getting him at 36.
They're not getting them in the second round. I had him going to the Washington Capitals at 17. The joke I made in the mock draft is you have the one-dimensional goal scorer can learn from maybe the best one-dimensional goal scorer of all time.
When I saw you mocked him to Washington, I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. And then you made reference to it. I was like, okay, good. He's thinking what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Well, my thought process is that the Capitals are in a weird spot where they really should be rebuilding, but they know they can't fully do it. They can't fully do it until Ovechkin is gone, because Ovechkin is trying to break the goal record. Also, he is a franchise legend, one of the best players literally of all time, not just best Capitals, one of the best hockey players we have ever seen. And they are not going to let that team completely fall into oblivion while he's playing, especially when there's a very clear endpoint. It's not like Pittsburgh's in a weird spot because Crosby could play until he's 46. Like, who the hell knows?
Yeah, he might be Yager.
Yeah, it's possible.
But be this good.
Yes. Whereas with Ovechkin, he's kind of made it abundantly clear that, look, I got 2 more years left on the deal. After that's done, either I'm going to outright retire or I'm going to go back to Russia and play for my hometown team for a few years, and I'm done in the NHL. So the Capitals know, all right, we got 2 more years where we got to kind of carry Ov and thank him for everything he did for us by not having the team totally suck. So because of that, they can't draft at the top of the draft like they probably should be given their situation. If Cole Eiserman were to slip to 17 and they have the opportunity to get a blue chip guy that late, I would have to think they jump on it, right?
Yes. Like Cole Eiserman is, while maybe one-dimensional, one of those dudes that you go, yeah, but his one dimension might be special.
Exactly.
And if you can't get, if you get top 10 picks, good for you. They can't do that right now.
Right, exactly.
It's as much as you think the world is only about championships, you're either a contender or you should be doing whatever you can to build that contender. A dude who helped save the league and absolutely your franchise and is 41 goals away from 42 goals from breaking the all-time scoring record. You have to kind of be in this in-between area. If you get lucky, you get lucky. Like, listen, they made the playoffs this year. Maybe they make a couple of smart ads, get lucky again. Who knows?
Like, they're not winning any championship again. Everyone knows that. Their ceiling is plucky first-round exit.
Yes, but it's now about the next 42 goals Alex Ovechkin scores. Like, it's worth it for them.
Yeah.
They will continue to sell out every game, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
So Cole Eiserman, maybe he doesn't get you closer to winning a champ. He's not a number 1 defenseman. He's not a number 1 center. But I think it makes sense for the spot they're in. Like, he could be a special player.
Exactly. And they need guys like that. I'm a big fan of Ryan Leonard, who they took right after the Flyers took Matvei Michkov. So I think they're drafting, like, that was a good draft. If they were to get somebody like Eiserman, I think that'd be big for them. They're still screwed right after Ovechkin retires, or leaves the NHL. They're in trouble for a while.
They have to start a rebuild late.
But if they already have a Cole Eiserman in their pipeline and a Ryan Leonard in their pipeline, it gives them something to build around for the 2 years when they're getting top 5 picks.
At least they have a starting point.
Exactly.
So we'll talk about that. Charlie, before we get to the let's keep doing more mock drafts.
Yeah, let's talk about who I had going to the Flyers. So
if you want to give it away, feel free.
I'll give it away. So I had Cole Beaudoin going to the Flyers. He is a center. The interesting part about this, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about my theory. So in the mock draft, my explanation of Cole Beaudoin is a center. He's not the highest upside guy, but he is very much he gets the most out of his skill. It looks like he's going to stick at center. He's got size. He's physical. I think the playmaking ability is maybe underrated, but it's not flashy. What the Flyers did in the last draft when they had 2 first-round picks, which they also have again this time, is they went with the big swing with the first one with Matvei Michkov, the big superstar type. And then with the second one, they went with the guy who fills an organizational need with the high floor. Now, Oliver Bonk so far has developed really well, and maybe he has a higher ceiling than we originally thought, I guess is the better way to put it. But at the time, Bonk looked like that, locked to be a second pair defenseman, but probably isn't going to be much more than that type of guy. Beaudoin would kind of be that same thought process where it's not a huge swing. And I think like if everything were to work out, he could maybe be a really, really good second line center if he hits his ceiling. But he's not like Kiviharju, who like was a top 5 potential pick before his stock slipped. And if he hits, maybe he could be a top pair defenseman in the vein of Adam Fox. Like that would be, I think, my ideal type of pick where it's another big swing. But would you be okay if the Flyers with their first pick in the first round this year go big swing, and then again with the later first round pick, maybe swing for a double?
That's the obvious. I think we are in agreement on listen, man, especially doing the rebuild the way they're doing. Like, you have to take the big swings.
You do.
Some might pay off, some might not. But if you're not going to get consistent top 5 picks for a few years, take the guys with the highest upside. But with these later picks, I would like to kind of not waste them. Like, I don't want a Jay O'Brien situation.
Fair.
That's like, with these picks, get an NHL player. If this guy ends up being Scott Lawton, so be it. If he ends up being better, awesome. Like that's kind of the way I see it. And I do like his size. I do like the scoring numbers aren't bad.
Yeah,
it's like
they're
close to a point a game. Not horrible.
And they're so weak down the middle right now. They have no one. I mean, they basically, I guess if you think Massimo Rizzo can be a center at the NHL level, then they're in better shape than I think, because I don't think he can be a center at the NHL level. But beyond him and the guys they already have in the NHL, they basically have like Owen McLaughlin and Cole Knuble, and that's pretty much it.
We don't know if those guys are close to NHL players.
like Owen McLaughlin was a 7th round pick. Cole Knuble was a guy who got passed over entirely in his first draft eligible year. Like, these are not guys that you necessarily can count on. You're hoping, but they're not the kind of prospects where other teams look at and they're like, man, I wish I had that guy. They're guys that, like, every team has an Owen McLaughlin and a Cole Knuble. The Flyers certainly could use a little bit more depth at the center position. And if they don't go and take a Berkly Catton or a Constantine Helenius with that first pick, maybe they do look at it and say, this draft has a fair amount of guys, guys like Michael Hayes, guys like Beaudoin, guys like Sacha Boisvert, who like maybe could be gotten with that second first round pick. And they might not have first line center ceiling, but they might have middle 6 ceiling.
But in terms of the philosophy, I will say, like, if it is, say, Yakemchuk, the way, okay, we paired the defenseman and the center, and one of them's a big swing, and one of them's like, guess what? We think his floor is NHL.
Right.
I do like that philosophy. But if it is to be, say, Helenius with the first pick, then maybe take a little bit of a swing.
Yeah, maybe you take a swing. Maybe you go with Kiviharju. You go with Cole Hudson, like Lane Hudson's brother. I think both those guys are probably going to slip to round 2 based on the scuttlebutt I've seen. But if either one of them was the pick in the late first, I'd be like, cool, you're taking a home run swing. Sure.
And that's like we talked about a minute ago. We can debate what we want, but at the end of the day, if we know what their philosophy is and what they're doing, like, it's kind of a waste of time to have that debate.
Well, but let's have that debate. Let's bring us to Travis Konecny.
But like, that's like, I think you kind of nailed their thinking with the mock draft. Like, we just saw them do this.
Yes.
We just saw them go, all right, well, Michkov, maybe it turns out to be less of a risk than we thought, but it was a risk.
Sure was.
Especially after the whole Fedotov situation unfolded.
Yeah.
And then, all right, you know what? Bonk, we think you're going to be an NHL player. We're taking you. Now, development seems to be going real well for Bonk. He might be a lot more than that, but that's the luck of the draft. That's what it is. But I think you may have nailed what their philosophy is in these situations based on one draft that we've seen from them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all we can do is predict based on what this front office has done, and that is what they did. Now, maybe that's not a model for how they're going to operate in the future, but it is how they operated in their first draft.
The only info we have.
It's the only info we have, so that's kind of my thought process. And hey, if they take Berkly Catton with that first round pick, maybe then they go defenseman with that second, and it might be the same philosophy. They might go with like one of the Swedish defensemen who like that Salem Wallenius guy who like smooth skater, probably isn't a top pair guy, but could be a darn solid second pair guy. Maybe that's the swing they take, which is again more of a double swing than the home run swing that like Kivi Harju or Hudson would be.
We all silly like the mayor.